Before I get started with this commentary, let me give a shout out to Texas FBA Forever on Twitter for sending this story to me. Now, this story I've never even heard of before until today, which is November 17, 2021, where you have this person in the picture by the name of Robert McCallion, who pled guilty to felony charges in which he stabbed a 17-year-old black girl. Well, he has been sentenced to 15 years in prison on a hate crime. First off, I'm glad that they got him with a hate crime, but on the flip side, 15 years is not enough. This guy stabbed a 17-year-old girl because of the color of her skin. And all he got was 15 years. I bet you had that been a 17-year-old Asian girl, he probably would have got way more time. But then again, how I've seen some in the Asian community treat the white people that do the stuff to them, they probably would have actually got less time, if any time at all. And y'all can look through from cases I've talked about not even that long ago, probably within the last year, where they seemingly have been giving them slaps on the wrist, but they gave us all the grief. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into this story, and it's coming out of White Plains, New York. In Ossining, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but it's spelled Ossining. Man who stabbed a 17-year-old black girl while making racial epithets in March of 2020 was sentenced Tuesday to 15 years in prison. Robert McCallion, age 36, pled guilty in September to 14 felony charges, including second-degree attempted murder as a hate crime related to the incident and a subsequent attack on a medical professional at Westchester County Jail while he was being held in custody. Now, here's the thing that I'm looking at. They have acknowledged that this is a hate crime, but they only got him on second-degree attempted murder. My thing is, if this was a hate crime, wouldn't it have been attempted murder in the first degree, which means he planned to attack this person? But on the flip side, I can see where the loophole for that would have came in. And the loophole would have been, yeah, he intended to stab somebody who was black, but it could have been anybody. He didn't know this girl from a can of paint, but because she was black, she would do. So basically, they could not get him on first degree attempted murder because it's not like, oh, I'm gonna go and find this 17-year-old black girl by this name and stab or try to kill her. What it was, oh, I see a 17-year-old, I see a black female. I don't know her age, but she's black, so I'm just gonna go and attack her. So now I can see why it was second degree. Which, if my hunch is correct, that was actually the proper charge to hit him with. I sincerely apologize for the events that happened that day, he said in court. There's no excuse for it. I was mentally unstable. Of course. There's no, he says, of my mental health medication, but that's still not an excuse. Okay. If you say so. He faced a sentence ranging from a minimum of 8 years to a maximum of 25 years in a state prison. So they didn't give him the max, nor did they give him the minimum. They basically gave him something in between. On March 13, 2020, McCallion used anti-black and anti-Semitic slurs as he stabbed the teenager multiple times in her face, head, hand, and back at North Highland Avenue apartment complex in Ossining, where he lived. The victim, who was at the apartment building visiting family, was a stranger to him. McCallion punched her in the face, knocked her to the ground, placed her in a chokehold, and then attempted to gouge her eyes out. Ossining police arrested McCallion after he was found in the parking lot of the apartment complex with blood on his hands and clothes. The knife McCallion used to stab the victim was also found at the scene. Police located the victim, who was bleeding profusely with stab wounds to the face and back, inside the apartment building with her family, and she was taken to the hospital where she underwent surgery. During a search of McCallion's apartment, where he lived with his father, police recovered multiple weapons, including 2 loaded assault weapons in his bedroom, as well as a tactical vest and Nazi propaganda. Roca said McCallion became radicalized by following white nationalist organizations. This case must serve as a warning, as a wake-up call about how vicious and divisive rhetoric and hateful propaganda can turn dangerously violent when consumed by certain people. Now, before I go any further, I don't know why I never thought of this before, because I've read several articles that have placed something like this in here before, where it would say a white person has gotten radicalized by these dub-S and these nationalist groups. when you got to really pay attention when they say that, because when they put it in those words, it's basically saying to me that this person wasn't this way before, but because they got consumed by what they were reading or what they were hearing, that's what got into their psyche and caused them to act on their emotions, thus claiming it as a mental illness or something to that effect could lean heavily to any case they have going forward if they could actually prove that. So you got to be very careful when they say that. I'm glad it didn't work in his favor with the whole my mental health and my mental meds. It still didn't save him or spare him from going to jail. The victim did not appear in court, but her father read a statement she wrote. "I hold my head up high," she wrote. "I will never give up. I'm here and I'm staying. I live." Following his arrest, McCallion attacked a medical professional at Westchester County Jail in Valhalla. This was a brutal, despicable, and cowardly attack by Robert McCallion on an innocent young woman because of the color of her skin, Rocha said. Hate crimes such as this not only traumatize the victim, but the community as well. In addition to the second-degree attempted murder as a hate crime charge, McCallion also pled guilty to a second-degree attempted murder, first-degree assault as a hate crime, first and second-degree assault, and weapons charges. But the only thing based on what I'm reading here that they got him on was the second degree attempted murder as a hate crime and some other things as well. Unless he got hit with everything, but it doesn't say in the article if he got hit with every last charge. And something tells me if he did, he would have got the max. So I don't think he got found guilty of all charges, even though they had first degree assault as a hate crime. But I knew that couldn't stick because, like I said, he would have had to known the victim and like literally targeted her because he knew who she was. I'm sorry. But he only targeted her because she was black and she was an easy target. And what have I told y'all before? Soft targets. She falls into the category of a soft target. She's a young 17-year-old black girl and was in a vulnerable state. Vulnerable meaning she could have been by herself. Had to be, because the way he went at her, I don't think that anyone that was around her would have allowed him to continue to do what he was doing. And if I was the father, I probably, after reading that note, I probably would have leaped over that podium or whatever it was standing between me and him, and it would have been on in that courtroom. I would have tore that place up like the Tasmanian devil just ran up and through there. I've actually seen videos online of people going crazy in the courtrooms on the people that have done something to a family member, such as, kill, kidnap, sexually assault, and all types of other activities. So it is what it is. So he probably had to show some serious restraint in that moment. But I know deep down he probably wanted to peel this man's wig back. And I wouldn't have been mad. They would have held him in contempt of court, but I would have been like, hey, he had to do what he had to do. Especially since, as a father, he had to feel some type of way because he wasn't there to protect his daughter in that moment, because he just wasn't there present when it was going on. Like I said, she had to have been by herself, because if her dad was there, I highly doubt that he wouldn't have even gotten that close to even touch a hair on her body. But hopefully, speaking of touching hairs, he gets touched on when he gets to where he's going. I wonder how much all of that rhetoric that he looked up is going to fly where he's headed. Unless he links up with some of his pals while in prison, it ain't going to be looking too good for him, and hopefully it doesn't. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments.